Yes, people, weekly surgery is back at the Albert JTV practice. Hashtag episode 5. But before we get into it, people, let's hit the intro. Yes, people, welcome back to Albert JTV. Weekly surgery episode 5. Just so you guys are aware, Chess has not been kidnapped. He has fatherhood responsibility, so he's not here. So we have got a special guest in the ranks. But before we get into it, people, smash the like button like I normally say. And if you don't know what to do by now, this is what you should do. And there you have it, people. Like I said, to my audio listeners on Spotify and Anchor, I will put this on my IGTV as well, so you can listen to my dulcet tones because it's been quite a while. Well, it feels a while, but it's not really good. But yeah, welcome back to the Brotherhood, man. Firstly, Souls, welcome back, my friend. It's been a while, but it's great to get you on for another episode of Weekly Surgery.
Oh yeah, there's a lot to talk about, obviously. But yeah, it's good to be back, just to vent it out, and yeah, hopefully feel better after this.
Yeah, not too long a night, man. I want to enjoy the rest of my Friday. And tomorrow, obviously, hopefully. But without further ado, my brother from Streatham, representing SW, is it, mate? SW?
Yes, it
That's it, that's it,
SW16.
that's
Yes.
right. I've got the right postcode, thank God. That's very important, very important. But RJ, welcome back to Weekly Surgery, brother number 2. Yeah, how you been, man?
I've been all right, man. Been all right, man. I hope you all are very well. I'm ready
Keeping
to do some surgery. So that's me. Need to get
Yeah,
some
cool,
scalpels. That's next.
Yeah. You just reminded me before I introduce my amazing final brother to the show, first time of Weekly Surgery. Big shout out to Gunforce Edits for the backdrop and new style Weekly Surgery. So big up to Martin, man. Much respect. Great work he does. People go and check him out. And obviously, Martin's a fellow gooner, so he's feeling the pain as well as we're doing the great work he does. But lastly, sorry, we've got my brother on the first Weekly Surgery. Thank you for stepping in, my friend JC. Welcome aboard to Albert JTV practice, my friend. How are you?
Good, good. I'm glad it's the weekend. I don't make many sporting debuts at 33 anymore. So, but I'm glad to be here. Hopefully we can help a few people through the struggles of late.
No, it's great to get you on, man. Thanks for coming in, man. Like I said, this is a something we've kind of dropped up for quite a while now. This is episode 5 now. Incredible, but we would get into it. Yes, you know what? I went to the Arsenal ladies game, and some of you might have been aware. First time watched the women's game. Arsenal ladies. They've had 2 footballing humblings, unfortunately, in the last couple of games. The cup final on Sunday. Wow. I don't think, like Jonas Ideville said, man, he didn't recognise his team. And I heard, the women Barcelona ladies were pretty decent anyway, but actually having to see them play in the flesh, fantastic sign. Pep Guardiola must have relatives playing in that team because they were so comfortable on the. It was a footballing lesson, man. Arsenal ladies, they huffed them, they puffed them, but it's very, very good team. It actually could have been more, if I'm being honest with you. But hopefully the ladies will bounce back with a big game in the WSL on Sunday against bottom of the league Leicester. So I'm expecting a goal fest. But let's move on to the gentleman Arsenal side of it. Guys, so our waveform for me, I was always going to look at the big games. Obviously Liverpool, Manchester United and Everton. As you guys are very well aware in terms of predictions, what I thought would happen. Not so much Liverpool games. I think we kind of deep down all kind of thought what would happen in that game. Maybe not to the extent that it happened, but we lost the game. And United won. I did have us down for a defeat, and the Everton game I had us down for a draw, which didn't happen unfortunately. But you guys are very well aware in your channels and social media. Arsenal is always a talking point, depending who you're listening to, as well as having your own opinions. But yeah, it's not good. It's not good. I expected dips throughout the season, but I think the concerning thing is, again, what crops up with a lot of Arsenal fans. It is the style of football, which, to be quite frank, in one word, is boring. And I had to think about that because I could use some stronger words than that, which I might still do because it's after the watershed now, so we might get into it. But I'm going to come to Souls first, mate. Normally, I can't have a structure with weekly surgery, but I think with Arsenal, it's quite easy to just maybe not even have a structure, to be honest with you, because you could talk about anything about the club. But in particular, like our last, obviously, we've won 3 out of our 4 away games. We've had defeats. What have you made of those defeats? Not so much Liverpool one, but I would say more so the last in Manchester United and Everton. What have you made of the performances?
I think against United is kind of the benchmark of what we're looking for. I know it's a defeat, but we were competitive in that game. Yes, we kind of went back into our shells again once we scored the first one. But I think in away games, it's a little bit different to kind of judge or assess, because that's kind of what you need to do. You need to score that goal, especially against a so-called top 6 team. Someone who's competing for the top 4 or should be actually competing for the title in this case. But obviously, they've been underwhelming as well as like Arsenal have been. And I thought we've asked for competitiveness. We can take a defeat as long as we're competitive. And I think in that instance, you know what? It was a stupid mistake that cost us the game. And I can't put that down to the manager other than decision making. The Everton game, that's the first time I have no idea whose fault this game is on, because there's an argument to say it's on the players. There's also an argument to say it's on Arteta, because you can't account for Thomas Partey not being able to make simple passes to maintain and hold on to the ball. So that in that regard, that's why I say it's hard to say whether it's the players or whether it's the manager, because there were times in that game where I'm like, there's a simple pass on. Why are you not playing the simple pass? Or sometimes there's a case where, Odegaard could have scored a hat-trick. Nketiah comes on. By the way, I thought he played well. I don't think he was as bad as people have made him out to be. I think he created 3 chances. He had that chance he should have buried. Anyone at an Arsenal level should be burying that chance. So that's why I find it very, very difficult to pin the blame on one party, because I feel like it is a collective responsibility. And I think sometimes we find it easier to blame Arteta and we think a manager coming in solves the issue. But when you look at the issue, how much coaching can Thomas Partey need to play a 5-yard pass? How much coaching could Nketiah need to literally put that ball that's harder to miss than it takes? You know what? We've made art of missing chances. Like, it's baffling. It's harder to miss those chances than it is to score. Like, it's harder to It's harder to miss them than to score them. I don't know if that makes sense, but yeah, like in my head it makes sense, but I don't know if you guys have got it. But we should be scoring those chances, and I hate this false narrative that we don't create chances, because if you actually watch the games, even against Everton, Odegaard had a chance which he absolutely scuffed. He took 1 too many touches and then took a shot. Nketiah should have scored. Aubameyang should have scored. Odegaard's goal was well taken. And then when you look at previous games, Martinelli had a chance to put us 2-0 up rather than 1-0 up. So we do need to look at it. There are player responsibilities and there's also a manager responsibility. Am I saying the football's good? Not really. I don't think it's consistent enough. But when we turn it on, I do like what we play. But that's why I come back to, is it the fact he needs a midfielder and a striker before we see this on a more regular basis? But I just think I think the easiest thing to do is get rid of Arteta, bring a new manager in, and we have our answer. But let's say that doesn't work, then we're back to square one, and we've fucked everything over for ourselves. So that's where overreacting can be a bad thing, but it could also be a good thing because we get rid of the problem or we get rid of the rot earlier than later. So for me, I said it to you guys, I'm very sort of, I don't know where I sit anymore because I don't trust Arteta at the moment because I feel like he's reverted back to the Arteta we all collectively wanted to go. And I thought at the beginning of this, well, not the beginning, but sort of that 10-game period, he was a bit more smart with his decisions. His substitutions were more proactive. I felt like he was doing a little bit better. But then in the last sort of 2 or 3 games, he's gone back to stupid Arteta, who doesn't seem to know how to make a substitution. So I don't know right now where I sit with that, but it's been very disappointing and questions need to be asked.
No, well said. RJ, I'm going to bring you in. We had 4 changes for the Everton game from the Manchester United game. Firstly, did you expect that many changes? And more so I want to concentrate on the sort of Everton game. You can refer back to Man United game if you want to, obviously. But I remember you said to me you was concerned about going into that game. And I don't think you was the only one. I think there's a queue of people that felt like that. I didn't predict an Arsenal win for that game. Even with looking at the fixtures at the time, 6 games in, I said, no, Arsenal get a point. Even as bad as Everton are, and we'll come on to that a little bit more. But yeah, 4 changes from the Manchester United game. Now, I'm struggling to, me personally, before I come to you, I'm struggling to look at that Everton game. And if you probably saw my fan cam on Lee Judge TV, to find any positives. If there were any, what were they? But also, more so, what did you make of that performance against Everton?
I'm going to be totally honest. That performance was a team that had no idea what they were doing. It just felt like you just got a bag of strangers who just said, "Oh, here you go." See what I mean? In regards to the changes, I think I'm just going to focus on 2 mainly.
Yeah.
And that's on Kieran Tierney and Granit Xhaka. Now, I've had my criticism of Lokonga, but I've always said I like the guy. Why did he not start this game? Granit Xhaka has been injured for God knows how long now. What's it been, 3-4 months or something like that? And then he's just back in the team straight away. But that's just what Arteta does. Same old stuff, right? Kieran Tierney, on the other hand, I did want him to start this game, so I was kind of happy with that. But at the same time, he just wasn't as fit as he could be. And that's unfortunate, because he's been riding bench for a while. But it is what it is. He couldn't remain to play 90 minutes.
He's been out for a long time. I know a lot of people. Sorry, I'm going to come back to you, RJ. A lot of people were kind of like, "Oh, can't believe took him off." I'm like, he's missed a lot of football, Kieran Tierney, and if he's had the injuries he's had, then I didn't really get that. But yeah, go on, bro. Sorry.
I didn't get that either. I think they just wanted to see Tierney back, like we all wanted to see Tierney back. But unfortunately, I think when you're watching football, sometimes that smartness kind of goes, and the naivety kind of just creeps in, and you're not really thinking. Because sometimes you can be watching a game emotionally, and then you'll be watching a game objectively. And let's face it, we've been through hell over the last 17 years, 18 years. So there's going to be a lot of emotions running high, and especially after that performance of Manchester United, which we threw away by. And I thought that we played all right. But unfortunately, going back into the shell thing, I'm not feeling that. And in this game, I don't even know if we even tried to do that. I mean, Everton looked like what we were supposed to do. And I've said this so many times over the years. I've told you already, Albert, I was worried coming into this game because the mentality of going to Old Trafford, the pressure was on us to go there and make a statement. The only statement that we did was Odegaard giving the penalty away when it didn't matter. But he redeemed himself. He got a goal at Goodison Park. Fair enough. And he could have scored more. But the rest of the team, I thought they were awful. I thought it was average. And again, questions at the manager. I mean, you know my thoughts on Mikel Arteta already. I don't have to.
Tell us again. Tell us again. That's what surgery's for. Go on.
Well, I let this guy out from Villa, Burnley, Leicester last season. I just had enough. I just said, look, okay, we won at Man United. Then go and get embarrassed at home by Aston Villa. Then the Leicester game, the Burnley game was just like the final straw. Even the Wolves game, in fact, was the worst one because, like Sol said, stupid decisions keeping David Luiz on after that horrific collision he had with Jimenez. And then what happened to Luiz? He's out there probably concussed, and we can see the goal. They took advantage of that because of Arteta's naivety. So my thing is with Mikel Arteta, like Matt G said, I don't recognize this team.
Yeah.
What I don't understand with Mikel Arteta, certain basics with this team, they're not doing that, you know? And what I can't figure out is the whole Nketiah thing. Okay, he almost scored, he created a few chances. Okay, fine. But, I mean, come on, the guy's leaving the club here. Like, should we really be playing him? As much as I'm not a fan of Nicolas Pepe and I think we should sell him, I actually felt he should have came on the pitch and tried something. This I don't know, Partey, like you said, I just don't think Mikel Arteta has the capabilities of coaching certain players in this team. And that's just my final opinion on Mikel Arteta.
We'll come back to him.
Good Lord. I mean, we've gone backwards. You know what I mean? So for me, for me personally, the sooner we change this manager, the better. But yeah, man, that's all I'm gonna say for now. I can say more.
We'll come back to Walter. Don't worry, man. JC, my boy, or bro, man. Someone's mentioned obviously before about you're not sure whether it's the sort of the players or the manager or mixture. But you could listen, blame all of them. I don't care. But JC, yeah, you know what it is, mate. We played at Everton. This is no disrespect to Everton, man. They haven't won since September. They're on the floor. They haven't got their main man up front scoring the goals. They're losing games left, right, and centre. I know people use the phrase that they was there for the taking, and yeah, you could say that. You actually could. You know what? Even going back to United game very quickly, like I said before in the previous shows or fan cams, I can't remember. With United for the last 3 years, I'd say. We've owed them a beating. There's been opportunities to go there and give them a tonking, and we haven't done it for whatever reason. This time recently was naivety and a very, very. I still can't understand the tackle by Odegaard, but it's done now anyway. But yeah, JC, coming into this game against Everton, what was your thoughts before the game in terms of Arsenal potentially getting a result, and also as well, and I said this at the time, not just as an Arsenal fan, as a neutral watching the game, it was an awful game of football to watch. It was rubbish from both teams. I generally thought that in the first half, and the one bit of quality that was lacking in that entire half, we actually got it by getting the goal. But also, I just want to touch on what have you made? What have you made of Odegaard's performances, especially in the last couple of games as well, mate?
So, yeah, heading into this game, I genuinely thought we would get a result. And the only reason I thought that was because of the manner we lost to Liverpool. And then we had that bounce back, if you will, against Newcastle. It wasn't pretty. I think the result was in the back of their minds. It took until the second half before we really got going in that Newcastle game. But we managed to grind out a win. And I was expecting the same sort of thing. You know, we're playing Everton, who are in a very sort of similar place, if you will, to Newcastle, not doing very well. We'd just come off the back of a horrible defeat at Manchester United. So I was expecting a reaction from the players, but obviously it never came. Odegaard is, yeah, as you mentioned, he's probably, over the last couple of games, he's probably the only positive, because we haven't had goals in midfield for, since Ramsey? Real goals from midfield since Aaron Ramsey, and both the goals that he scored, they were late runs into the box. So that is the one positive. Obviously, he gave away a stupid foul for the penalty at Man United, and he can't defend himself. It was a horrible, horrible challenge. But that aside, he has been, in my opinion, he's been positive. And I can see him starting tomorrow as well. I'd be very, very surprised if he didn't start.
You see with Odegaard, I'll come back to you again, JC, quickly. I thought he was okay against. I thought he was okay against Newcastle. I thought he was all right against Man United. I wouldn't go any more than that. I was quite surprised actually by some of the reaction I saw in terms of. I wouldn't say they was giving him glaring reports after the United game, but I genuinely thought I must have been watching a different game.
To be fair, the way the team performed at Newcastle, United, and Everton, it didn't take much to stand out.
And that's not really a positive, to be honest.
Do you know what it is with Odegaard? He's not been excellent. He's not been oh my god, but I do think he does a few things that go under the radar that help us keep the ball. And I think that's the issue. It's like you've got to you have to watch him to know exactly kind of what he has done as an individual. There's like a few little skill moves he does, or a few little turns that he does that keeps an extra second on the ball for us and helps us control possession a lot better than if we don't have him in the team. And that's why I think people like what he offers. And look, Odegaard's still, 22, he's turning 23 this season. He's still young. I think there's a lot, even from watching him from his Sociedad days when he got loaned out to Betis because he was linked to Barcelona. So that's when my interest peaked for him. And obviously when he went to Real Madrid, I just wanted to see why these two clubs are interested in him. And I think what people are doing is because he's not performing right now, people are thinking, is he the talent he could be? But I'm telling you, this is half the player we're seeing. There's still a lot to come. He's adding the goals into his game. He's got a good set piece on him. And I think he does a lot of what he does goes under the radar. I kind of use him as a Busquets-esque player. Unless you watch them, you're never going to know what they've done. And I think, you're right, Albert. He's not been, oh my God, he's brilliant. But I do think he's been better than a lot of players.
When I say that, I probably would speak for, I won't say I will speak for some Arsenal fans. It's not just this season. I think they kind of balance it with what they feel they saw in terms of his output in an Arsenal shirt going back to last season. I don't think it's just those two games.
I think with Odegaard as well, when you look at what's behind him in the base of midfield, I don't think he has the freedom and the luxury of being able to get forward and play his game because he's always worried that he's going to leave that space in behind where he is and he has to make those numbers up in midfield. You know, when he was playing in that Real Madrid side, very rarely. And also when he was in La Liga with, was it Real Sociedad? He had players around him. He had those players around him and he knew the players behind him would do that job. At Arsenal at the moment, honestly, I don't understand how he's playing. I don't understand how he's playing.
If you don't play... I'll come to RJ actually. With Thomas Partey, we obviously mentioned if I look at his time at Arsenal, yes, we have to count the injuries into that, but I'm going to judge it more so in terms of when he's been fit or deemed fit or a run of a game, should I say. He's been very underwhelming. Like I said to you, when we played United away, and I said to you guys at the time, obviously I was at work, so I actually purposely didn't see the result and then watched it when I got back. And I've got to be honest, there was a couple of occasions, and I've mentioned, I remember it, I don't know why I say it, on the 35th minute when he got the ball, it was a simple, for a midfield player, I don't care whether you're an enforcer or you're Pirlo-esque, it was a simple pass to, I think it's Martinelli, and he played it straight to Fred. I lost my mind. I said, what is this guy doing? Like, that's not, I don't know what's going on. But I mean, that's obviously one particular incident. I can't just hammer him just for that. In the entirety, he's been at Arsenal, but I think that's kind of symptomatic of some of the sloppy and how can I put it, lazy play. It just think, come on, like we've seen how good you are as a player. Yes, you played in a different league. I understand that. Maybe. And this is probably, I'm not even making excuses for him, trust me. I'm not the person making excuses for any player in this Arsenal side, but he surely can't be adjusting still to the pace of the Premier League. Surely.
Well, he said it in that interview. He said he don't feel like he's adjusted that well to the Premier League. And if we're going to be totally honest, look how many times he's been injured. He ain't really had a proper run of consistent games a lot. There's always a couple games that he's injured, a couple games that he's injured. And it's like, what the hell? What the hell is going on? And it's annoying because there's always exactly 4 out of 10 says. It's funny because he
said it himself. I know.
And
It's mad.
do you know what I mean? I agree with that. If anything, if I'm going to be real, I'd actually say 3. I'm going to be honest. I'd actually say 3 because no, I'm going to be real. I'm going to be real.
Yeah,
no,
you have to be.
I have to be real. Like, I think it's 3, not just because of what he's done at Atletico Madrid, but let's face it, everything's just fallen apart since he's come to Arsenal. He's had a couple good games and a lot of bad games. Like you said, simple passes. He just can't get that right. The one thing he did in that Man United game that was excellent was that pass from Martinelli
For the Odegaard. Yes.
That was one thing. And yet, I don't get it. The party from last season, who was always bloody injured, bring him back. He was better. And yet, he wasn't even that great. That to me, that really frustrates me. However, like I said originally, I'm going back to the manager. Can Mikel Arteta get the best out of Thomas Partey? And on top of that, we were dying and screaming. All of us, a lot of the fans, you know, well, I'm going to speak for myself, but I know a lot of fans, and we all spoke, and we said, what did we need in that transfer window other than Xhaka leaving? A partner for Partey. That's what we needed. We didn't get that. So now, just to me, I feel like we need 2 extra players in that midfield. Just because El Nene is going to probably chip off. We need to replace him. I know we got Lokonga. Xhaka is just going to be there. We know Xhaka is going to be there. But we need, for me, I feel like we need 2 more. I can't trust Partey right now.
No.
But again, I just feel like, you know, it's down to his fitness. They need to put him on some next diet or something to help him. I'm being honest. They need to just put him on some next diet or some training regimen or anything to help him stay fit. I like I said, I just look at the manager and I just think, do you know how to use him? Honestly, remember when Emery wanted him? I probably trust Emery more to use Partey than Mikel Arteta because of his experience. But again, Emery probably would have got someone beside him. He might have used Torreira or Guendouzi or something. I mean, Xhaka, do we really have to talk about that? I'm not scapegoating Xhaka, by the way.
No,
I know people are going to get hurt when I say it. But I'm just saying, Granit Xhaka, Thomas Partey, I know some people said he's played better around Xhaka. I get that. But that's what we got for now. We need better. But for me, Partey needs to improve quickly or he's just going to get the Pepe treatment. I'm being honest.
And the worrying thing is, JC's mentioned it. The way he's playing, he shouldn't even be in the. He actually probably shouldn't even be in the team.
No,
and that's a concern with the strength of our midfield. But so I was going to come to you. Normski put something in the chat actually, which is really relevant. Where I don't know what it is that every game Arsenal plays, it's a big game. It's a massive game for Arsenal. We could be playing bottom of the team with minus 50 goals. It's a huge game for Arsenal. I mean, our next game, for example, we've got obviously Southampton tomorrow, which I'm going to. Am I looking forward to it? I don't even know. I'm probably looking forward to more seeing some of the guys, to be honest. But we've got Southampton tomorrow. That's a massive game. Every game's massive. I think the one after it's even more massive, to be honest with you, because we've got West Ham at home. So we'll touch on the Everton game a little bit more, but sort of looking at the Southampton game tomorrow. Arsenal, if I've got this right, boys, in the chat, we currently sit in 7th, I believe. I'll be 3 or 4 points off the top 4. Southampton's a strange one, because at some point with some of the results they were getting under Hasenhüttl, I'm surprised he's still there, but he's managed to ride the crest of the wave, and he's still there. He's a good man. I think he's a very good manager, actually, to be honest with you. He's done very well at Southampton, and I don't think you'll find too many people down that neck of the woods that'd be too disappointed with what he's done. But how do you see the game going tomorrow? We've had 4 changes in the last game. Do you expect to see the same team, or what changes do you possibly see might happen?
I think that there is going to be changes, but that's more forced, not necessarily maybe because he wants to. Obviously, we're hearing Aubameyang's out due to. We'll find out. There's a lot of speculation whether he's actually ill or whether there's been a bust up in training. Obviously, we'll find out what's happened there. Obviously, we don't know the situation with Martinelli because he did have a knock on his hamstring. We don't know how that's gone, but if it is a hamstring injury, then don't risk it. There's bigger games for him to play, such as the West Ham game, for example. So I wouldn't risk him if that is the case. If that's the sort of threat that he has got a hamstring, just leave him out. We can do without him. One of the conversations I've been having or kind of dealing with is, what if we just played a 4-4-2 and put Pepe and Lacazette up front? Because that's one of the things that I've been rocking my head with. Because what does Pepe offer us? Goal threat. So if we just leave him up there, don't tell him to do fuck all. Don't even come back. Don't belong in any playmaking decision. Just shoot. That's your job. Just get the ball, shoot. Don't even think about passing. Don't even think about doing any. Just to make it simple for him. Just shoot, because that's one of his best assets. He scored many goals when he's not even thinking about it.
He's a good finisher, Pepe.
And
He's a very good
and I think with Lacazette dropping in deeper like he normally does, it allows Pepe to just be a runner in behind to then get those goals. And especially if we are to believe Aubameyang's out, if we are to believe Martinelli's out, that means two potential goal threats. Aubameyang's not really much of a threat at the moment, but he's more of a defender for the opposition, more than he is a striker for us. But I digress. But this is the thing. I think Arteta just needs to try something out of the woods, like he did when we went on this sort of 10-game. It's because he tried things. He went whatever I've started with clearly didn't work. So let me now change things up a little bit and try it. Because what happens is we become too predictable, too repetitive. And then what happens is the next team kind of figures it out. And then we don't change or we don't tweak the system enough. Even if it's just the way Taney runs, even that can just put off the opposition and you can win the game that way. You've not really tweaked the system, but you just tweaked the component. And we don't do that enough. And Southampton are probably preparing for Lacazette to start, Saka to start, and ESR to start. Why not just throw a spanner in the woodworks and go, you know what, actually, we're going to go Lacazette, Pepe up front, try and handle that one. And it just causes chaos. Like what Pepe does, it causes chaos. And that's what we don't do enough of. We don't have a player who can just get the ball and do something with it. And that's kind of what I want to see. Just something out of the blocks, just random.
Yeah, sorry, so I think the only problem with the Pepe thing is I think the only action he's going to see is on the touchline.
Yeah,
I think the last couple of games, I just listen. People get no, triggered's not the right word. I'm going to bring JC in. It's not people make a lot of Arteta subs, and I see why. And this is not just this season. I'll go back to last season. It just makes some very, very odd decisions. But JC, looking at our wins this season, bro, we beat Norwich, who currently sit 20th. We beat Burnley, who currently sit 18th. Tottenham are 5th. Villa sit at 10th. Leicester 11th. Watford 17th and Newcastle 19th. That's the Arsenal wins this season in the Premier League. At the start of the season for you, in terms of when we played the bigger teams away from home, what was you expecting to see? Because obviously we've won the games we've won this season in the Premier League, but it's against teams that, and I hate to say this, and it's not arrogance. It's when people say it's teams you should be beating. We should be beating them. Look at where they sit in the league. But I think the issue is we can go to big away grounds and lose certain matches, but it's the way you lose. Obviously, we don't want to get a Tonkin 5-0 by City and 4 by Liverpool and conceding 3 United, and we conceded 2 the other night against a team that haven't won in over 2 months. I guess the question to you really is, we're beating the teams that we should be beating, but the problem is the football is terrible.
Yeah.
How are we going to improve that? We're going to touch on Arteta a bit more later. Don't worry about that. But in your opinion, how do we get a bit more cutting edge? Because what concerns me even more is I look at some of the teams in the Premier League, right, and they might not even necessarily have as good a squad as Arsenal, but they play way better football than us, or they look more competitive against the bigger teams. What is it? What is it for you, my friend?
I think a good place to start, especially this season, given that we didn't have any European football, we've got big breaks in the week, 5-6 days to prepare for games or whatever, is just show some consistency in your lineups. I know some of those changes are forced through injuries and players being tired or being away at international duty, which we've got to deal with in January. That's going to be a lot of fun. But for me, it was when he started making too many changes where the problems started happening. And I'll give you some examples. You've got the game against Watford. You've got a man of the match performance in Ainsley Maitland-Niles. He dropped him for the next game. You've got a potential joint man of the match performance against Newcastle in Sambi. Drops him for the next game. And I think I spoke to you a few weeks ago over on my channel when you said that Sambi was used in the Liverpool game, but then Arteta used the reason that the United game would be too big for him. Liverpool are one of the most informed teams in Europe at the moment.
And he played on Nenny against Man United. I cannot understand this guy's decision making.
It makes no sense. You've brought 5 or 6 players in during the transfer window, some of which were late transfers as well. And pretty much all of them are starting in this starting 11. It's going to take time for these guys to adapt. And just as we start, I know it wasn't pretty football. I know it wasn't the sexy football that us Arsenal fans are used to it in the past. But we were grinding out results as a unit in a 4-4-2, which is a system that nobody uses anymore except maybe Burnley. But we were winning football matches. And I'm not saying that we would have gone on and we definitely would have got top 4, but the sign of a good football team is winning ugly and winning those games where you don't know which way it's going to go. And then all of a sudden he started changing things, and I just don't understand why he started to change things. He changed the whole formation, the whole system against Manchester United, and he's stuck with that, and he's lost 3 of his last 4 games. As soon as he changed from 4-4-2 to 5-2-3-1, or however you want to look at it, he changed the system. We started losing games. Why have you changed a formula? We wouldn't have got top 4 this season, but if we could have got top 6 with that 4-4-2, with that 10 game unbeaten run, maybe not the Arsenal we want, but it's progress.
No, Jason,
just consistency.
No, big up to you. Yeah, and you make a good point. The European thing is that listen. When I'm not gonna. I've heard it being said about Arsenal players looking tired. I'm like, hold on a minute. We ain't got no European football. What tiredness are you talking about? We're in December.
Exactly.
I don't understand what's going on. But no, RJ, I'm gonna come to you, mate. Right, the elephant in the room. So Xhaka comes back into the team against Everton. Some people say they saw it coming. From the whispers that we heard, he's back in training and he's coming back faster than the progress he's making the comeback quicker than they first thought. And I guess my question to you is, let me give you a bit of context actually, and I'm going to get obviously Sol's and JC's thoughts as well. And when I say what I'm going to say, anybody that's seen my content, I think with the social media aspect of it, in terms of Arsenal fans, and I like I said, sections of it, it's almost as if you've got a kind of how can I put it? I'm trying to think of the words to use, but they've already made up their mind. So as far as they're concerned, you've got, captain of Switzerland, leadership, bring structure, bring shape. It doesn't matter what the game is. It doesn't matter how bad Arsenal play or how good. They'll always have their thing to say, you know what? Xhaka in it. The happy club, I'll call it. That's just the case. Because the thing is, if we're talking about, Arsenal want to go into a different direction and, the 5-player, 23 and under. Like I said, listen, Sambi, like he said himself, didn't expect to play every game, for example. But if you're going to play him against Liverpool away, and Ainsley Maitland-Niles, like JT said, has had a man of the match performance against Watford, how can he just come straight back into the team after a long-term injury? Tierney was out for a while. He didn't come straight back into the team. So yeah, thoughts about in terms of, because you know what made me laugh as well, to be honest with you, is I said it, but I'm going to speak for myself. I'm not going to speak for you guys, obviously. I don't see any positives from the other night against Everton. Didn't see none. But like I said, the happy club, Xhaka played well. Is that supposed to be a positive? I'm asking the question because like I said, maybe I saw a different game. I don't know. For example, you know, people say, "Oh, we couldn't have made the tackle for when Gomez got the ball," but he obviously he couldn't because he picked up the yellow card earlier when the tackle on Gordon. But if that hadn't happened, maybe could have took him out and whatever. But yeah, what's your thoughts about Xhaka being brought back into the team?
Again, I'm part of that club that's just not surprised. You know, that's Mikel Arteta's favorite player, without question. And it's funny because I used to ask myself, even when, more Emery as well, why is it Xhaka is always consistently in the team? You know, what does he bring? And I know a lot of people can give me their opinions on that, but I've got to be honest, it's not going to change my eye and my view, and it's nothing to do with I don't like the player. I just don't get.
That's the thing. That's
exactly
not. That's not. Yeah, that's not the case. That's not the case. Yeah.
So it's not a hate thing, you know. I don't listen. I support every player that plays for Arsenal, regardless if I don't like you. I don't think you're that talented or whatever. You still play for the team, so I'm gonna support you, even if, you know, like I just said. My thing is the one thing that made me laugh a little bit. The guy played the whole game. I'm thinking to myself, you just come back from injury. Why didn't you just take him off? Or in fact, why didn't you start Lokonga, then bring on Xhaka later on? If you'd done that,
that's what I thought. That's what I thought the plan would be. Yeah, but it didn't happen.
It's Mikel Arteta, Albert. That can't be the plan. The plan will always be Xhaka starts. That is the situation. So, you know, he did okay. But then he went back to normal. Let's foul that young kid, get the yellow card.
Gordon, yeah.
Gordon, right? When really and truly, if there was a time to get a yellow, it was the
Gomez. Yeah.
That could have prevented. Well, we all know what happened next, don't we? So again, it's just one of those things where the guy is just his favorite. That's just the bottom line. I don't get why he started. Like I said, if he came on later, I wouldn't be upset about it. Fine. If you want to try and shore it up, cool. But then again, we're getting battered all over the place. Anyways, I'm surprised Everton didn't have 3 goals up, but that's another story for another time. But I expect to see him against Southampton as well.
I'll come back. Hold that for me. So I was going to bring you in. Yeah, I mean, you probably wasn't surprised to see Xhaka's sort of come back in for the Everton game. Generally, yeah. How do you think he played against Everton? Also, what is it you feel that he brings to the team that some people say that he brings something to the team in the midfield and structure and leadership and all the other superlatives that he brings to the Arsenal team? What's it for you? What's your opinion?
I think, do you know what it is, right? The Gordon thing, do you know what? Like, he kind of had to do that because he was left on his own. If he didn't take the yellow, Gordon could have gone through. So he would have had a similar conversation to what Damari Gray went through. So I don't know. I don't blame him too much for that because I kind of get why he took the yellow. But I thought at that point you take him off so that someone else can then take the yellow if needed to happen. Yeah, that's the thought process I would have maybe gone with. But do you know what? He's not a terrible. I've always said it. He's not a terrible player. He's just not a player for the Premier League. That's the way I've always put it. I think if he goes to for example, if he went to Roma, he would have teared it up. And I said it to people, and watch him tear it up in the Serie A, and then we're going to regret. We're not going to regret it because he fucking suits the Serie A. That's the difference, you dummies. Like, he suits a slower league. You can't. The issue that I have is that too many people don't have a tactical knowledge of the game. They don't understand how player profiles have a big impact in how they're going to perform in certain leagues. And Xhaka simply doesn't have the profile to suit a Premier League. Why did you think Jose Mourinho didn't try and make a bid for him at United and when he was at Spurs? But as soon as he got to Roma, all of a sudden that's his number one target. Like you sometimes you've got to think about things before you start to just have verbal diarrhea for the sake of having verbal diarrhea, saying a player's going to perform well, we're going to regret it. And I said to them, you're right, he is going to perform well. I ain't going to regret it, though. Do you know why?
Let me come in quickly. I'm going to come back to you quickly.
Yeah.
You know what? We've had this conversation, RJ. We've had Ben, JC. I mentioned it. You've got the sort of the happy club, and I'm going to say that I could use other words, but I don't want to get
the deluded club.
I don't want to get taken off social media. But no, it's the big. They're so set in stone. Like we missed him. Like even when I'll give you a perfect example. Right, we drew at home to Crystal Palace. He wasn't even on my radar as to why we drew that game. But you always have a section. Give it 15, 20 minutes after a game that we don't win or we draw. We miss Granit Xhaka. What in your opinion, why do people keep saying that?
I don't know. I really don't, because he's the first name on my sheet to go. Yes, like for me, the ideal mold would be like a Basuma, but that's not. That's a complete opposite of what Granit Xhaka brings.
Yeah, complete opposite.
So why am I going to sit here and defend a player who I don't really think suits a team? Yes, I'll give him this. He does bring leadership. I know people say he's got his clown room moments. Yes, but I do think he has that leadership. He does influence players to a level. But I don't need a cheerleader on the pitch. If I needed that, we could hire a cheerleader. That's not an issue.
I don't get when people say that. That makes no sense to me.
The thing is, for me, like, I've not even to be honest with you, I've not really missed Granit Xhaka. I just think Arteta needs to, because he's stuck in his ways. That's the issue with Arteta. He's kind of stuck with his safety net, and that is Granit Xhaka.
Twice over.
Yeah. And as soon as he then doesn't have Granit Xhaka, he seems to forget that actually, the thing is with me, that what frustrates me the most is I know the guy knows football. He does. He's a very, very smart manager. This is what pisses me off, because he actually could. Like, I don't know, people are going to say, deluded. No, he actually, you know what? I put my neck on the line. He can be generational if he just.
You know what they say? They probably just say, well, they probably just say that it's hard to judge a guy who's never had managerial experience before.
Yeah.
So what are you gauging it against? That's what they'll say.
Yeah. I do think he's smart, but sometimes he's too smart for his own good. And I just think he needs to bring it back to basics. Okay, for me, he should have seen that Thomas Partey isn't performing and he's not giving any support to Xhaka in an instant. Let's just say it as a hypothetical here. What he then should have done is maybe changed one of them to try and get something out of that game. Because even at 1-0, what you've done, you've lost control. Try and bring that control back. Thomas Partey is making stupid passes. Bring Lokonga in. If you think Xhaka's the issue to why Partey's not performing, then change Xhaka. But my issue is when he then doesn't want to make a change because they're his two favourite players. He's like, now these are the guys I'm going to lie my morals on. And that, for me, is why we've been so detrimental, and why actually it makes Xhaka look worse than he is. Because he's been asked to take on a responsibility he can't do. He's not going to spin a player at left back because he can't move. He's got the radius of a dumpster truck. As long as it takes a dumpster truck to make a U-turn is how long it takes him to do a U-turn. And that's the reason why we lose balls, because he's not press resistant. And sometimes for his own good, in certain phases of the game, he doesn't need to be in there. And hence why we look at him as a shit player or a bad player, when in reality he's got good qualities, but just not for the Premier League.
No, well said. Jason, let me bring you in. Get your thoughts on Granit. But before you answer, the thing is, I put out, I don't know if you guys remember, I put out a Fred tweet last season in regards to Xhaka, people, because it's almost like they have when you talk about him in terms of footballing style, right? Oh yeah, but the Arsenal fans had a go at him at Crystal Palace and the social media stuff. I said, but the thing is, and RJ, I've said this before, so many times, like, not every Arsenal fan that went to that game that day at Crystal Palace, or every Arsenal fan that has social media, will having a go at Granit Xhaka. unless you can pinpoint every person in that stadium that day that said something personal about him, then good luck, because you'll be there forever. But I've always said people are very quick to talk about leadership, but I'm going to make the reference. All right, if we just park the most mistakes that led to goals, just let's forget that. Let's take that out of the equation. I will never forget it, but we'll take it out of the equation for now. When people talk about leadership and team shape and whatever, when we play Man City away this season, where was that leadership? I can tell you where it was. It was in the change room because he got sent off. When we played Burnley at home last season, where was that discipline? You put your hand around somebody's throat. So Xhaka's 28, 29, I think he is. So when people would just like to be very selective. I don't know. But what's your take on sort of the Xhaka thing coming back into the team and what he brings or doesn't bring to Arsenal?
It's he splits the fan base. He splits the fan base. I'm trying to be nice. Yeah, he definitely splits the fan base. At the start of the season, I genuinely thought, when we were linked and then signed Sambi, I still thought we were going to sign another midfield player.
Yeah.
And I didn't have a problem with Granit Xhaka staying around, because at the end of the day, we needed squad depth in midfield. We needed squad depth in midfield. We needed cup games.
That's just my
point. Yeah, cup games, injuries and that kind of thing. That's fine, but that is his place in the Premier League. He shouldn't be starting every single week, in my opinion. And this comes not just the Granit Xhaka situation, but I think some of these questionable decisions by Arteta are now starting to be questioned by the players. And I think now we're seeing Arsenal players taking things into their own hands in terms of the way they play.
Yeah,
we see an Arteta on the sideline now, literally screaming at the players to get up the pitch, and they're not listening to him because of the decisions he's making, because they don't make sense. Granit Xhaka being one of them. I'm sorry, it's just the situation. How can you bring Nketiah on when you've got someone like Aubameyang who's at the club, Pepe who wants to be at the club? Pepe has never come out and said he wants to leave the club. He's never criticised Arteta, right? At all. So when people are saying, why are Arsenal playing deep? Why are Arsenal going 1-up and playing deep? Surely Arteta would have worked on that on the training ground. Surely. If Arteta doesn't want Arsenal to play like that, would it work on it on the training ground? They're not listening because they don't trust his decisions.
And the most alarming thing is, my man played midfield in his footballing career. I cannot believe I could understand Souls, JC, RJ, if he played football in another country for 10, 15 years. My man played football for Everton for however many years. Came to Arsenal, has been coaching in this country. I just don't understand it. Yes, it's his first job. I understand that. But, JC, you make a great point. The common denominator is Mikel Arteta. Twice. The thing is, and this is not about liking Granit Xhaka or disliking him. Forget that. It's the fact that we shouldn't need to be having this conversation or on other channels or YouTube channels if the decision had been made for both parties to say, look, let's just you move on. But that's the problem. Mikel Arteta has kept him here twice over. And it's killing him, man. It is not just Xhaka. It's a lot of decisions he's making that are just completely baffling.
There's so many decisions that he's making.
Yeah, so we're going to come on to it. We're going to wrap up with just we're going to get your score predictions for tomorrow, but also we can talk about Arteta. I'm going to come to you, Souls. Souls, bruv, I don't know where to start, man, to be honest with you. This football club, I've watched this season, and Daniel Farker sacked. Dean Smith, Villa through and through, gone. Brucey, gone. Nuno Santo, not even hardly warmed the seat, gone. Solskjaer, gone. Why are these football clubs making the correct decisions with some of the supporters of those football clubs, in their opinion? And why are we still stagnating with this manager? Because the thing is, people talk about the Arsenal board have put trust in him. That's fine. You can do that. But even you have to see I don't know what it's going to take. I think the only thing for me where they would actually wake up one day and smell the Kenko coffee is if they looked at the table and saw, you know what, the European place is looking a bit dicey, you know, and we're picking up poor results. That, to me, is the only reason why they get rid of him before the end of the season. If it gets to a point through this Christmas period, going into January, and our European prospects with no European football at the moment, by the way, are looking shaky, he has to go. Now, before you come in, Souls, I'm sick and tired. Right, this is what happens. I'll paint the scenario for you. Right, Arsenal fans will say to you, Souls, oh, who should we get as Arsenal manager? You give them a name. Oh, we're not going to get him. But then there's a flip side of it. Oh, I don't have a name. I see you can't even name a manager. How are you supposed to win? We're not as Arsenal fans. It's not our decision to pick the next manager. Do not sit there and tell me you cannot get a manager to come to Arsenal Football Club. If Arsenal are serious, hierarchy, by the way, there's managers out there. Listen, we can talk about Rodgers, Potter, Gasparini, Ten Hag. There's managers out there. Don't tell me there's nobody out there, because that's nonsense. Souls, come in, my friend.
It is a difficult one. Obviously, they're going to view it as we're still in the race for top 4. We're still in the race for top 6. I know it looks gloomy at the moment and it looks very doubtful, but mathematically, we're still in a chance. We're only a couple of points away. That's the way they're going to view it. They're going to see how this Christmas period pans out. It's not been, to me, it's been the season I predicted it to be, because I never expected us to be in any conversation of top 4. I expect a top
8. I said we're lucky to get top 8.
Yeah, top 6, bare minimum. Otherwise, you literally burn the club down and you start again, because there's no other way we're going to get back to where we need to be. But for me, the issue that I have is there's only certain managers for me that come in and take us back to where we need to be now, especially when you look at the appointments of the so-called Big Six. I didn't want Conte, so I couldn't care less that he's gone to Spurs. I still don't want him. I still couldn't care less if he came to Arsenal. I wouldn't like the appointment because it goes against everything we're building. So for people who said, do you not regret Conte? No, I don't. I couldn't care less. I wanted him to go to United. That's how much I did not want him at Arsenal, because I feel like, yes, he may win you something, but the damage he leaves you in is just too irreparable, and especially in an Arsenal structure.
I'm going to come back to you. Do you say that with the view that, okay, say if you say you didn't want Conte, for example, was there anybody else in mind that you say, you know what, Arteta, you're toast, bring him in?
I'd say my sort of plan, and this is no disrespect, by the way, to this manager, because I think he's doing a phenomenal job, but my plan sort of C would be a Graham Potter, because he comes into the mold of my plan A, and someone who plays a similar philosophy. He can develop young players. He's clearly got an eye for talent. He's done it at, he's promoted teams, so he's been in the absolute shitters and in the trenches with teams, to try and get them back to where they need to be, or where he wants to see them anyway. And even if you look at him at Brian, I know people are going to say, but they're in a relegation battle. But for me, they're a lot better than people see.
That's a good point. If you see, so I'm going to come back to you again quickly. You make a very, very good point, because for those who, like I said, I think the problem is with some of our fan base, and I'm going to say it, I've said it before, is I'm not sure how much football they watch outside of watching Arsenal. The only issue Brighton have got, and they've had it for 2 years now, they can't find the striker. But they play brilliant football. Go on, Souls.
Yeah, and then I was going to say, like, the plan B, the reason why this is plan B is because this would be a very, very hard one to do. Just because he's representing his country and he doesn't really want to leave until the World Cup is over. And that would be Luis Enrique. He's another one in my eyes who suits this team to a T. Like, it's his profile, his image.
And that's what I said to you. If Arsenal are serious, he's somebody they should be looking at.
Even I feel like maybe that one I can forgive if they couldn't get, because he's not budging for United, he wasn't budging for Barcelona, he's not budging for anyone at the moment, so I can forgive that. He would
have come with a lot of money.
But that's what I mean, though. Like that comes with its own risks as well. But my plan A, which is absolutely doable because their director or their technical director wants the job at Arsenal. And you know who that is? Eric Ten Hag. Overmars has openly said, if Arsenal offer me the job, I am coming. Which means there's a way to convince Ten Hag to come as well. Because if you can bring one component, you can definitely bring both of them over. And to be honest with you, the amount we fucking pay managers, you're telling me Ten Hag in his career isn't firstly going to be a step up because he's going to come into the mainstream. And no disrespect to Ajax, but the Dutch league it hasn't got the eyes that the Premier League does. If you want to make a name and you really want to make yourself known as a manager, you come to the Premier League. It's not a disrespectful thing. Or you go Barcelona, Real Madrid, as the obvious is. But if we're going to give him 11 to 15 million, by the way, which we paid Wenger, so we're more than capable of doing this, and say to him, look, here's 15 million pounds a year, you're telling me he's going to turn that down? Not a chance.
That's the thing. So I was talking about when I meant with Enrique about the money. I don't mean in terms of player budget. I mean in terms of I think they
The wages,
about 40 million pounds to get Enrique. Pay the money, man.
He'll make you 40 million pounds within the first fucking 10 games. Just because he's got you back into top 4, into European. And by the way, there's another thing that I want to say, because I think this kind of makes a good point to why I do believe Arteta could go sooner than a lot of people think. And that's the fact that the value of the club has actually come down. From the last financial reports to what we've now seen, that it's actually lost a lot of value to the point where the Cronkies are reconsidering how they're going to now structure the club again, because they need something to change, because the value and the proposition of Arsenal isn't as attractive as it once used to be. So I from what I'm hearing from some people that I know, there could be a restructure happening again, and you could be seeing names being shifted and consultants coming in. But that's obviously all just in a blur at the moment.
No, well said. Going to bring in RJ. Your thoughts, obviously, about Arteta and the way managers have been moved on quite ruthlessly this season. Your thoughts, my friend. Go on.
Just like Granit Xhaka was kept here twice, he's had so many opportunities to get sacked. But again, this club's not serious. We've heard Josh Kroenke. I know you haven't. Albert, I hope you've watched that interview yet. But you probably haven't. I know. Time's busy. But
I will watch it. I will watch it.
Get on to that. But the thing is, the one thing that Josh Kroenke did mention, he was talking about young managers. I don't think Ten Hag is that old, is he?
No, he's only like 5 years into his managerial career.
But the guy has experience. This is what.
It's only 5 years. It's still young. Yeah.
It's still experience.
No, that's what I mean. Like, he's young but experienced, yeah.
Exactly. That's what I'm saying. So I'd rather take that risk. Someone that's just been managing in the the Dutch league, why not bring it over? You even said it yourself, Overmars. He wants to come and do the job. And this is the thing. This is where I think even the youngsters in the under 23s could even get better as well. So, like, they got people coming out the factory for crying out loud.
Standards, RJ, standards, like you say, standards, mate.
And this is this is the thing. If we're trying to go in a young, we're trying to improve our youngsters and give them more chances, etc., etc. I'm all for that, but we need to be having the right experienced players, and we need to have a system and a playing style. And I generally think Ten Hag could bring that to the club. Whether Arsenal do it or not, I'm not gonna lie, I do not have no faith. I think it's more likely to go probably Man United after Ragnick's terms up, and that worries me because again we're gonna miss out because Arsenal are too slow.
It's a lack of forward planning. Yeah, that's a huge problem.
It's a lack of planning, but most importantly, it's the lack of ambition.
Yes.
We've been screaming about ambition for years. These we've only just been here for 5 minutes. We're custodians. Blah, 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 blah. And you hire a man that's been sitting next to Pep Guardiola for a couple of years. You think, yeah, that's my guy. I want him. Based on what? Sitting next to Pep. Having a jacket that says MA on it with a Manchester City badge. He's won a couple of FA Cups at Arsenal. Okay. You could have brought Vieira. More legendary status. Been more experienced. You could have done that. Even though I didn't want that in case Vieira gets himself into any type of trouble, because we saw the mess at Man United.
And he's not really tore it up before Palace, but I know what you mean.
Exactly. So for me, listen, someone put it in the chat earlier. I think it might have been Matt. We can blame Arteta. I blame Arteta because he's naive. His tactics are shit. His playing style is shit. He's not using the players correctly. And he's just brain dead. And it's like, what I don't get was when he first come in, you know, before we won the FA Cup and that, some things I kind of saw different. I kind of saw the players' tails were up. Okay, we finished 8th, which wasn't great. And even, was it last season or the season before? I can't remember. It might have been the same season where we lost to Leicester and Eddie messed up. But I saw a little bit of something. I had a little bit of hope, even though I was still like, this ain't the guy. He'll probably get us to like 5th or 6th. Then we move him on. Then we get someone better. That's what made more sense to me. But they're not doing that. So for me personally, I blame the owners more than I blame Mikel Arteta. He just come to the job because he loves Arsenal. And look, we all love Arsenal. I don't think we'll say no to it. But the fact of the matter is, he's not good enough. He shouldn't be the manager. Again, the owners showed their ambition. Yeah. So, and Arteta's not going to walk out the job, is he? Let's be real. But my problem is, and I'm going to say this, yeah, and I want everyone to think about this. You guys probably know this as well. So I'm going to leave you guys with a food for thought. The longer Mikel Arteta is here, and the longer the Kroenkes is here, we always say we're not probably going to challenge for a league.
Yeah.
But we talk about, like you guys said, every manager, I think Normski said, Arsenal's attractive club, managers will come. I slightly disagree with that. And the reason why I slightly disagree with that is because look at the way, forget our history. Our history is rich. Forget about that for now. Let's look at the last 10 years. It hasn't been great. Couple FA Cups. It's gone down the toilet in Arsenal in terms of style of play. We're going down. We've been regressing. You know, the fans, hot and cold. Do you know what I mean? And we're not really doing that. And now we're out of Europe. I mean, if we're out of Europe for a little bit longer, it could get bad. And this is the thing, where the owners don't really give a shit in terms of getting a manager with a higher quality or trying to at least. Managers going to be like, why would I want to go there? And so even players as well. How are we going to attract those experienced players that Edu was talking about?
With no European football as well.
With no European football. Oh, we'll give you 300k a week. I don't want to. I want a guy that's just going to come here. I want players that's going to come here and say, do you know what? You don't have to pay me that much. Just pay me a certain significant amount. I'm going to come in this team and I'm going to boss it up. Because some of these punks need to get the hell out of the club. Yeah. And some of these youngsters need my help. Because they need a spine. And some of them already got it for crying out loud. Do you know what I mean? Yeah. So that's all I got to say on that, man.
No, well said, man. Well said. Forthright. JC, come to you, mate. What's your sort of thoughts on what the guys said on the managerial situation and all the other bits, mate?
Well, a lot was said.
Yeah, a lot was said.
Touching on something RJ said, actually, I did watch that interview that you talked about. It's about a good 20 odd minutes long. And one thing that I found really, really interesting is whilst the Kroenkes have been involved with the club for a long, long time, they've not had full power and decision-making of the club since 2018, I think it is. And when you look at the financials since then, they've spent quite a few quid. Now, my look on this is they've put themselves in a win-win situation over the summer. Because when Arteta first came into the club, Arsenal were in transition. We're still in transition, but the group of players we had when Arteta took over were a lot worse. They were on terrible contracts, terrible attitudes. He's managed to move all of that out of the club and he's changed the culture of the club. The Kroenkes spent more money than anyone else in Europe this summer. If Arteta gets it right, they're masterminds. If he gets it wrong, the blame isn't going to be put on them because they'll turn around and just say, well, we spent £150 million. It's not our fault, it's the manager's fault. We gave him the players, we gave him the money. Yeah. Before the season started, I always said he'd have until Christmas. And we're at the beginning of December now, and if things get any worse, I can see him going, which is the perfect time to bring in a new manager. And I agree with both the chaps. The ideal manager for Arsenal is Ten Hag. When you look at what he's done at Ajax and the way he's brought young players and made them into men, It's perfect. When you look at the crop of players Arsenal have right now, the Gabriels, the Ben Whites, the Tavareses, your Lokongas, it's absolutely perfect. But we've also got to take into consideration, right? He's also taken under his belt players like Daley Blind, Tadic, and I can't remember the fella's name that plays up front from now. I played for West Ham, Haller. All flops. All flops. They are playing out their skin at the moment for Ajax. They absolutely battered Dortmund, who are one of the best teams in Europe at the moment. If he can get that sort of reaction out of some of the senior players in the Arsenal team, with Thomas Partey's, your Aubameyangs, who could be at the club for the next year or two, it's the perfect hire for Arsenal. It's a match made in heaven. It's going to be really, really interesting, as I said, because the Cronkies have put themselves in a perfect position where they won't take any blame because of the amount of money they've spent. They're in a win-win situation.
No, well said, man. Well said. Boys, what a weekly surgery, man. Hour and 10 minutes in. Great views, great people, great comments for guys in the chat. You stayed with me. What's the time now? Almost 20 past 10, man. It's a late one for me, boy. Wait. Weekly surgery episode 5, man. But before we go, I've mentioned the guys, I sort of want to address something. Because you know what, I have a little platform. Sometimes I like to talk about certain things. So for me, as I said to you guys before, I've done on my channel, I've done it since June 2020. I've been lucky enough to do some stuff that I like to call credible in terms of the life stories content series, and obviously you guys, my brothers, doing the weekly surgery amongst previews and reviews. And I always said to you guys at different points of knowing you and talking to you about YouTube and social media is you spot things and pick up on things very, very quickly. And what I've noticed, particularly in recent months, and I'm only speaking about myself here because I think it's appropriate, and I might get the guys to comment afterwards. But I'm a guy of a certain age, so I'm not perfect. But if you have an issue with myself in regards to maybe something you might not feel that I might have understood, or potentially you may feel I've upset you somehow, possibly. I'm a grown man. I've got my DMs are open, like RJ says. Some people might even have my phone number. But what I don't appreciate and what I find a little bit disrespectful is I'm no big time Charlie. Believe me, I've got a very certain amount or number of subs that doesn't go to my head. Listen, I'm not in the 5 and 10,000s, but I've never been too big for my boots, and I've got a lot of time for a lot of people, male and female, I've encountered during my time doing YouTube. So if you're going to come at me, be a man about it. Woman up, man up, DM me. Stop the indirect tweets, because I've seen a lot of it in quite recent months and a few months. If you've got a problem, open your mouth and talk. Say something. I'm a reasonable guy. But stop the indirect nonsense. Listen, I've been very, 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 very fortunate in terms of the people that have asked me to come on their channel. Not me turn up and think it's a free will, I can do what I want. People who have asked me to come on their channel because they respect my opinion. They like to hear what I've got to say. I take that as a privilege, and I don't run away with it and think I'm the big time Charlie. Absolutely not. I've been very, very fortunate to meet you guys, my brothers, along this YouTube journey, and met some amazing people on Twitter. And listen, like I said, I like doing what I do. I like to be original, and I like to, do the best that I can do. Listen, I'm not here to beg people to like me or whatever. I couldn't care less. If you want to subscribe to my channel, do so. If you want to come and drop me in the comments, watch a live stream, do it. But stop the indirect rubbish. If you've got something to say it to my face or tell me. It's not a problem. We'll have a man-to-man chat about it. But I want to get off my chest because I've been seeing quite a few things in recent months, or quite a long time, to be honest, where people who act like they're come on you Gunners and Arsenal family and hashtag this and hashtag that. No, you're not. You don't support my brothers when they do their streams. You don't support them. I know what I'm talking about. The guys know what I'm talking about. And the people that know me for well enough know exactly what I'm talking about. So carry on doing what you're doing, and I'll carry on doing me. That's what I want to say. So I don't know, quickly come to you guys. RJ, anything you want to say before we wrap up?
Two words. Fuck the, well, actually, it's quite a few words actually. Fuck the fake positivity. I can't stand it. I can't stand it. I can't stand people. What I can't also stand, and I'm going to make this point very clear because I even tweeted this out as well.
Yeah,
2
respect.
points actually,
Yeah.
quickly. I'm not going to ramble. I'm not going to ramble because I want the boys to have their time. Number one, why are you complain? Like, why do people complain about not watching their content enough? And you know, like you made a lot of subs, and you know, I don't care if this is indirect or whatever. Like, I just see a lot of people do this. Be happy, be humble with what you got. I'm no big time Charlie. If I'm gonna steal a line from Albert, I've only got a certain amount of subs. I've been doing YouTube for about 3, maybe 5 years. In fact, I used to do other content instead of football. Then I decided to jump on the football thing because I just felt like I needed to voice my opinions and that. But I'm very humble with my subscribers, and you know, people want to follow me, collab with me, and everything, and make friends with me online. I'm happy with that. You know, I just don't get people that are over their heads and just think they're bigger than they are. Like, just be humble with what you got. You know, if you're doing well, great, congratulate yourself. But just don't start, you know, disrespecting your own crowd. What's the point? And another thing, we live in a very opinionated world.
Yeah.
That's one thing I cannot stand. You know, if we're gonna have debates about players, managers, or whatever, cool. Like, if I don't like what you're saying, I'm gonna tell you, but at the same time, I respect it. I'm not gonna tell you you're wrong. Your opinions are not wrong. That's how you feel as a man and a woman. That's how you feel. I'm gonna question you about it. Why this, why that? Because I'm allowed to. Same vice versa. But people go on like they're in church, bro, and they go on like they're the preacher. Start saying, "Oh yeah, we must do this, we must do that." Okay, that's your opinion. Some people don't want to do that, but yet you're cussing them. Oh yeah, you're an idiot. You're a fraud because you don't support my movement. I can't stand it. I can't stand it. So again, like I said, it's not a disrespect to people. I just want people to have a food for thought and just be humble, man. Everyone's got different opinions. And that's all I got to say on that, man.
No, big up to you. JC, anything you want to add quickly?
How long you got?
Long enough for you, bro.
Oh, mate, honestly, yeah, I see lots of different things being said and people holding themselves in such high regard, and I just don't understand where the hell it's come from. I don't know what cloth you've been cut from, but boy, just sometimes you've got to be humble with this sort of stuff, and if you can't see it, then you're going to fall soon enough. Soon enough. I could sit here and name drop many people. I don't socialise with them. That's all I'm going to say. I'm going to be nice.
Yeah, well said.
I'm very direct, so I'll save it for another day.
Yeah, cool. Real. Souls, you got the final word, my friend, before you log off, mate. What's your thoughts, man?
I was just going to say, I think people need to understand that you're asking for people's time, and time is valuable. You know, the cliche saying of time is money. And you can't just sit there and just slag people off for not watching your content. Maybe go back and question yourself why they're not watching your content, rather than being like, why is no one watching? Why do I have 2,000 subscribers and no one's watching? Like, maybe just go back and reevaluate what you're doing wrong, or ask for advice. Like, but even when you're asking people, there's a way to ask as well. There's some people that are very condescending, and you know, I understand sometimes when you write things, you don't mean it in that way. But that's why you need to step back before you, especially when you tweet something like that could maybe get people in the wrong way. You need to look back and just read it. Would you appreciate that if you read that? And that's the way I always think of it. And you know, content creation and YouTube and social media is, I've always said it's a modern day disease. It's the thing that's in we are the slaves to social media at the moment, and clout, and this idea of needing to have like millions of subscribers, and because we've seen people make millions of social media, we get obsessed with this reality that isn't a reality. It's a fake life that people put on the internet, and half of them aren't even happy with themselves. So we're trying to chase a dream that half the people aren't even happy with. As soon as they make that success, they're contemplating suicide. No, I know that sounds morbid and that sounds deep, but it is true. So sometimes we just need to appreciate the stage we are in life, and especially, and if you're coming out of these 2 years with that mindset of, people don't take the time out to watch me, this, that, the other. I'm sorry. Where the fuck have you been for the last 2 years?
Well,
like the 2 years should have made you appreciate even more
100%.
the position you've been put in. Like whether 5 people are watching you, 1 person's watching you, whether someone watches you constantly, once your stream is done, you should appreciate every single person. Because think about it, if someone's like Normski, I know for a fact, has been here for an hour and 20 minutes. You can't beg, so you can't criticize other people for not giving that time up, because it is a long
100%.
time. It's a Friday night. People have had a long week at work. You don't know what their week has entailed. Some people sometimes just want to break from football because, and also you've got to understand, how many times can they hear the same sort of opinion or the same source of content? There's only so much someone can go through. Like if I watch 4 Arsenal podcasts, I'm guaranteeing you I'm going to hear at least 3 of them be similar. I'm not going to say you're saying the word to word the same thing, but the point is the same. So after a bit, you just stop watching like content altogether. But it's. I think people need to be. I think this world that we live in and the way that we've been sort of molded socially, we need to step back and just appreciate the little things again. And that's the disease. I always say it's a disease in the modern world where we're entrapped that wherever you are, whatever stage in life you are at, it's never good enough. It's like I always use the graduate example. I'm a graduate right now, going through a graduate scheme, etc. And I'm always like, well, why is that person getting paid more than me? Rather than thinking, actually, the guy's been in the job for 10 years. Of fucking course he's going to get paid more than me. Do you know what I mean? But that's the way some people think. They think about it like, why is he getting a better pay plan or a better contract than I do? And then forget the fact that actually everything else behind the scenes, his experience, his this, his that. And that's the issue. Appreciate your stage, and one day you'll get there.
So you make a good point before we wrap up. For example, the Football Content Awards, for example. I mean, some of the stuff I see people tweeting, like in the lead up to that, was embarrassing. Like, you can't beg recognition. That's just, to me, that's crazy. Like, if it was people who was like, oh, yeah, but the same old people win. No, they didn't. If you actually watched them award show, and I watched it, there were some channels I've never heard of in my life who have got a very, very small subscriber base. So they do get recognition. There's a lot of channels out there. People seem to forget that there's a hell of a lot of YouTube channels out there, not just related to Premier League, grass, non-league football, League 2, League 1, Championship. There's a hell of a lot out there that do get recognized. So stop with the self-entitlement, please, people, man. But brothers, it's been a fantastic show. Thank you, JC, for coming in for your debut on Weekly Surgery, bruv.
Thank you for having me, mate. Appreciate it.
Where can the guys find you, man?
So, as it says on screen, run a channel called We Are Arsenal. Same on Twitter. I do previews, I do reviews, player ratings, match reaction, mainly around stats, tactics, just loads and loads of analysis. If you fancy it, go and subscribe. Or you might catch me on here again. You never know if Albert liked me tonight.
Of course, bro. You'll be back, man. We need to get you down next year for one of the games as well, man. Definitely, man. But no, yeah, people, go and follow JC. Solzy, thank you for coming back on, bro. Where can people find you?
Yeah, literally, Gooner Souls on Twitter, and that's where you'll find if I'm doing anything. Obviously, humble enough to get a few opportunities in the past or a few weeks, so just follow me on Twitter and you'll pretty much find what I'm doing along there. But obviously, you can always find me here.
No, well said, man. And last but not least, RJ, where can the people find you, my friend?
Well, they could find me at Sid. Oh, wait, hold on, wait. My bad.
They can always find you late to everything, yeah.
If we want to play that game, we can play that game, son. Well, listen, you can find me in A&E at Albert J TV, you know, with the surgery room with the boys, of course. Big up, guys, as always. And yeah, check me out on Twitter, RJ Rose. And guys, I'll be back on my channel very soon. Subscribe to Ryan Williams AFC. I'll be back.
There you have it, people. There you have it. Weekly surgery is closed from late Friday night. I don't know what surgery opened at this time, but yeah, listen, this ain't A&E, but people, big up to people in the chat. Thank you for tuning in for Weekly Surgery episode 5. That is Albert J TV over and out for another night at Weekly Surgery, people. Peace out.